I'm Alan Ross. I'm the managing editor of APC Technologies, and we are here at the NETA, the International Electrical Testing Association, their 2023 Power Tech Conference, doing interviews. My guest with me is the Director of Communications for APC Media, Rachel Linke. Rachel, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely, Alan. Would miss it.
We're just going to have an interesting time with all of these people, and tell me what you like best about these interviews.
The best part about these interviews, I feel like, is that it really brings about a lot of great thought leadership, and I really just love how you make everybody feel so comfortable, Alan. You really try to get people to just be comfortable and in their own skin, and then so much great information comes out of it. So
let's see if we made people in the next interview comfortable. Enjoy. Our next guest is Paul Seppanen. He is the founder and CEO, president and CEO? You got both titles or just one?
CEO.
Okay, he's the king of ARENT. And Paul, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it very much.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So, first of all, tell me a little bit about how you got into the whole idea of, you founded it, so obviously you saw a need in the marketplace, and I know ARENT is well respected, and most everybody here at NETA probably uses your company, but tell me how you decided to do this in the first place.
Well, with my investor group, we were looking for an avenue to get involved in the electrical testing space.
I don't know why. There were so many other things you could do.
You're right, yeah. but ultimately it's a great industry when you think about it in its broadest definition, with tailwinds for the next decade.
Yeah.
In terms of transition of generation mix, there's testing all along with that, and then major new load coming onto the grid. Data centers now, EVs in the future. Mm-hmm. And then on top of all that, tremendous investment in the grid. Yeah. Every utility out there has multi-billion-dollar grid resiliency programs. And so all of those things are driving an increased intensity of testing and a need for test equipment. So it checked the boxes in terms of good macro sector, a sector that myself and our investor group could understand, and an area where we thought there was an opportunity for a new business. So all that came together 4 years ago, and we launched a new company. It's very difficult at the start, building a brand, building a team simultaneously.
Did you start at COVID? Was when you started?
Yeah, just coming into COVID. Yeah. Now, fortunately, our sector was impacted a lot less by COVID than most industries out there. So myself and my team, we worked at the office right through it. We took preventative measures, we traveled less, but we grew right through it. It didn't impact our business other than depriving us of industry events like NETA Power Test 2 years ago, where we would have loved to come to that event live, and we didn't have that opportunity. So we did the Chicago Power Test just before COVID, then we had the year off, the virtual one, and then now we're back to it, and it's a very big part of our year.
Okay, I'm going to come back to NETA in a little bit. I want to talk about the company. As I was doing some research for this, I thought about what questions I'm going to ask different people. There is, and you alluded to it in the pre-interview, there is so much happening in our industry, in the power industry, and power in general. And that's whether you're a user, whether you are a distributed energy supplier, whether you're in storage. EVs, Bloomberg just announced that their adoption of EV estimates from last year are 2.4x off. They say it's happening faster and at a scale that they had not predicted, and they're pretty good. Bloomberg is pretty good about predicting that. But everything seems to be changing, which means everything's kind of in your favor. But with all of that change, it brings a lot of challenges. Not challenges for you as a company, but challenges for the industry. So talk about your perspective of what some of those challenges are.
Yeah, a great example of them is EV charging points, where there's lots of media coverage and definitely social media coverage about consumers having bad experiences with EV charging.
I was one.
I think every EV owner, and I'm not one yet, but I hear about it. Lots of people I know have them, and then I see all the good articles about it. The Journal did a nice article, I think probably 6 months ago, so now, where they had one of their reporters rent a Nissan Leaf and drive it from New Orleans to Chicago and back. And she was a bright, motivated young woman traveling on major highways, and it was just a disaster for her.
Yeah.
It was hard to charge. The chargers gave less output than they said they would. Some didn't work at all. Some were at a car dealership, but they were locked inside, and so on a Saturday or a Sunday, whenever she stopped by, she couldn't charge. It was really difficult. But when you think about for our industry, we know how to solve those things. We know how to deliver reliable power to a charger and test a charger to make sure it's safe and providing output in the way it should.
Yeah.
And some of the NETA companies are already involved in doing that. There's going to be a huge opportunity for other companies to do more of that. Now, in some cases, the test equipment doesn't even exist yet there anymore. And so there's simultaneous development going on to come out with the products for that.
So that's another, from a test equipment standpoint, a lot of the things that are being tested, for instance, breakers. Breakers are changing dramatically. They've gone from the electromechanical. Yes, we've still got a install base, but a lot of microprocessing, a lot of solid state. That changes. The product itself must then change the equipment that you use to test it. Talk a little bit about that.
It does. So primary injection testing is still going to be the same,
okay,
where you're directly simulating a fault condition through the primary channels. And we rent equipment for that. It's relatively straightforward. You just push a bunch of current at the set levels, and then you know if your system is working right. On the secondary side, those have always been application specific. And so with each new generation of breaker and trip, those change. In some cases for the better here lately, where Eaton, for instance, eliminated the need to have a test set on their most recent breaker. You just plug in with a micro USB cable, hook it up to your laptop, and it's all software to do the testing.
I did not know that.
So that's a case where a product evolution on the apparatus side actually simplified a testing step and eliminated a test equipment rental opportunity. But it's for the better of the industry. So you don't have these cats and dogs of oddball test sets that everybody had to hold an inventory of in the past. They engineered it out with their new design. Schneider goes the opposite direction, though. Schneider still has proprietary test set with every trip, and often with a weird proprietary connector as well for testing. So they keep on their own path. Eaton has taken a little bit different path.
And there's amongst the C-level people say, hey, we want it to be across all. We don't like proprietary software or proprietary systems because it open architecture, and that's not really what it is. But they just want to make sure that there's interoperability, interchangeability, and so it's going to be interesting to see how each of those play out. But in the case of the Eaton test set, our non-test set, it does require a different knowledge base. All test equipment requires a knowledge base for the tester, right? The NETA trained, NETA certified person. That's a different set of, when you start to go through software, you got to read the software. It's got to go somewhere. Does it just kind of bypass the testing and it goes right into engineering where they start making the decisions? Or is the software built into, it's also saying what you need to do to remediate any problem?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty good software. And so it gives you the same measures that a test set would. And then those will guide you if you need to do some sort of repair on the breaker. So it's really just eliminating a piece of hardware off the computer, using the power of the computer to do that. It's pretty clever evolution there.
Okay, and then they'll figure out a way to get it right into the system so you don't even have to go out and plug into it. That'll be the IoT, the next generation.
Yes, potentially you could do that. And certain breakers have that as a trip option already, networked information to it. But it costs more. There's probably some security sensitivity about that. Frankly, there should be. And so most things we see going still requires you're doing that maintenance to actually plug into the breaker.
Okay. You mentioned EV charging, so that's the end, that's the part of the grid edge that's at the edge. There's also a part of the grid edge that is at the beginning. That's wind and solar, storage, battery, all of that. The test equipment required for that part of the industry, DERs, Is that any different, or is it the same, just different application?
There's some unique things for solar, for commissioning the PVs themselves. And so there's a handful of OEMs that are different OEMs than we see at this event that have innovated on the tools that you use to commission solar panels. And we own a big inventory of that because solar is a growth focus for us. So that's the part that's unique. The rest of a solar farm, though, it's a substation, it's collection wiring, same sort of things you'd find on a wind farm, same things you'd find in other grid applications. So the challenge can be that they're at a remote place. So rather than having one big gigawatt or multi-gigawatt coal facility that's now getting shut down, suddenly you've got 10 new solar farms, maybe spread over multiple states, with 10 different substations supporting all that. So that's a positive driver in terms of testing activity. It's a negative in terms of location, where you have to go fan out and get resources to all those places.
Yeah. So one of the biggest challenges that we see, I'm a transformer guy. Transformers are the heart of the system. That's my lifeblood. We're going from a transformer-based step-down basis to now, I call it step everywhere, inverters. And the whole idea that because of wind, solar, you're now having inverters in the system. They are changing the impact on transformers. Transformers are aging more rapidly as a result of taking power both ways now. Does that change test for transformer testing, electrical testing?
Possibly.
Okay.
And that would get beyond my expertise. I think the utilities would certainly take a view on that. If running, people call them inverter-based resources, which they really mean solar, but they also mean storage as well, because that has to come through the same way. Maybe that's a little harder on a transformer.
No, it is.
It's
Southern
known
Cal
that
Edison
it is.
said it quickens the ages. It doubles the aging factor on a transformer. So and now we have this shortage of transformers everywhere.
Yeah.
And we're making it worse by having the older ones fail sooner than they were intended to fail. So Southern Cal Edison did a really good, they presented it at Distributech a couple of years ago and kind of statistically said this is what happens when you put in an inverter-based system in place. So it does. Given that it does, what's the challenge of that?
Really, you would just do more frequent testing on it. So, and presumably you would also add some safety factor in the sizing of the transformers. I know the safety factors there have been engineered way down from what they were. I've heard utility folks talk about for the same MVA rating in the past, the transformer weighs half as much now. So that's a lot less material in there. Obviously, a lot of safety factor got taken out. Not that it's unsafe, but just engineered to optimize. And so maybe that has to revert back a little bit.
I'm a little older than you, but when I was at Georgia Tech, we used slide rules, and everything was built more robust because you're looking at lines on a slide rule to decide. And I'll remember a professor one time saying, hey, Ross, planes fall out of the sky if you get it wrong. And it's like, put a little bit more of robustness we built into it. I mean, some of the best transformers ever built were built in the 70s by Westinghouse. They're still operating today. They are operating as well as they've ever operated, but maybe they'll go 75, 100 years, who knows. Last thing I want to talk to you about is NETA. You mentioned that Power Test and NETA as a whole, that you're big fans and supporters of it. Why?
It goes back before I was even a participant in the industry. I went to my first Power Test in DC. And I was kind of a nobody there, just somebody new showing up to meet people. I was trying to buy a business. And I was impressed by a couple things. The first was the collegial atmosphere of it. These guys are competitors, and they poach staff one to the other. And not that there aren't disagreements, I know that there are, but it was really unique to see the spirit amongst the competitors, even amongst vendors as competitors. So a real spirit to support the industry, say work is work, we want to compete, we want to make a living and be successful in our businesses, but we want to be happy about it as well and have a good spirit. And I felt that immediately in NETA, and it was very different than some of the other trade organizations in the past. I started in the semiconductor industry, and there you had semiconductor OEMs, Applied Materials, Lam, Novellus, bitter rivals. And it was a totally different atmosphere. And I said, wow, this is different. And I like it. And I liked the spirit between vendors and customers to say, hey, there's room for both of us to be profitable in this, and it's not a zero-sum type of thing. And so I liked that whole atmosphere. And that's certainly supported by being in a growing industry. You know, it's easier when you're in a healthy industry to treat each other well because there's enough money to go around. And so that drew me, that spirit within NITA. And then the way people welcomed and mentored to me as a brand newcomer, not with anything on the immediate horizon that was going to benefit them, but just because they liked the sector and were friendly and engaging with me. And so that, on top of the business fundamentals that we evaluated, that told me, let's make an investment as an investor group, let's put money into this as me with a certain career horizon to say, I want to spend time on this. This is the right sector for me to get involved with.
Good. As the founder and CEO, you've got to have a vision. What's the future for A-Rent?
Yeah, so we're a technical rentals business. We're really good at the building blocks of knowing the right equipment to own, how to engage with a customer to match up that right equipment with the application that they have right then, and then the logistical ability to put equipment in their hands anywhere in the U.S., sometimes internationally, to do that quickly and with certainty. We've checked a lot of those boxes. At the current size we are, we're about 20 people now. We support a nice wide group of customers. We want to continue to grow that and be a leader in this particular sector. And as there's adjacencies, other areas of technical rentals, we'll add those in as well. Excellent. Leverage the framework that we've set up.
Well, at the luncheon that we had here at my table, I heard some NITA companies, you know, the CEOs of their companies, and they were talking about test equipment. They were talking about some things with Meg or some other things, and you will like this. And somebody said, yeah, but if we don't have it, we can get it. We go to A-Rent. And I
nice to hear.
You were kind of a right there, a go-to source for somebody. Said, if we don't have it, we know we can get it, we'll go to A-Rent. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You're building a name for yourselves.
That's great. Yeah, we've made a big investment in equipment. You have to do that, especially lately where things are 3 months, 6 month lead time. We have to guess ahead. And we know that a customer, they'll still call today.
So Paul, thank you so very much for joining us. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.